Aloha, Paul here at warhq.co.uk, and today we're looking at Gates of Antares. Gates of Antares has similarities to the way that bolt action plays, so if you have played bolt action you'll understand the order dice. So what happens is each unit you have in each army, and here we have a Gar army of 2 units with 2 dice and a Concord army with 3 dice. Each unit you have gets an order dice, and they get gathered up and they get put into a bag, sometimes a cup or something, so that you can draw them out, and each order dice is pulled out in turn. So that would be an order dice for the Gar, and then we maybe one for the Concord, and one for the Gar, another Gar dice, another Concord dice, and we would play it in that turn, so that you're always engaged with the game, because you never know which dice is going to be drawn out next. And we have a fairly simple turn sequence, but just before we get to that, let's just go over the orders on each of the dice. So again, very similar to bolt action, we have a fire order, which means that you don't move but you fire with no modifications. We have an advance order, which is the basic unit move, which for most units is 5 inches. You can move 5 inches and then you shoot with a modifier, making you slightly less accurate. We have the ambush order, which means basically you stay still, and if another enemy unit moves into your range and line of sight, you can choose to fire at them out of turn sequence. And we have the down order, which is used if you fail your order test, or you can choose to go down as one of the reactions, I believe, to being fired at, but we'll go over that in a later video. The other 2 actions we have is a rally action. So when you've taken pins on a unit, each time a unit is fired at, for example, and hit, it receives a pin, whether there's any casualties or not, and the pin, if you like, likens it to you've been fired at, you're taking cover, so you are slightly less likely to complete any given commands that you're given. So the more pins you have, the less likely you are to carry out given orders. And then the last one we have is the run order, which is a double advance, if you like. So rather than the 5 inches, it would be 10 inches, but you can't shoot or carry out any other action. Also, there is a sprint order you can take in Gates of Antares, but again we'll cover that in further videos. So that's the order dice. Each of your units can attempt to carry out one of those basic 6 orders, assuming they pass their order test if they need to take one. So the order phase is you draw dice from the bag, hand it to the player it belongs to. In this case it would be the Concord, and he applies it to a unit, and he takes the order test if necessary, and then his unit follows that order. The player works out the resulting action, and once that's all been done, we go back and we draw another dice from the bag. That's then applied to a unit in the corresponding army, and they take their action, etc., and so we carry on until each of the units has carried out all the orders that it's able to. And then once we get to that bit, unlike bolt action, a slight difference here, we do the end phase, and the end phase consists first of all of any units that have gone down. They need to do an order to see if they can recover their dice. So let's imagine, for example, if I can find it, it'll be the last one. Let's imagine this unit here has gone down, and they need to pass an order test. If they pass their order test, the dice goes back in the bag so they can carry out an order next time. If they fail the order test, the dice does not go back in the bag and they stay down. then we can choose any units that are on ambush can choose to stay in ambush if they haven't triggered their ambush. And again, ambush is one of the orders that we'll cover in a later video. And fast units that have done a run order can decide to retain their dice as well. And after all that's been done, we can then move on and we carry out the orders phase. Go through the orders phase, 1 dice per unit surviving, until we get to the end of the turn phase, and we carry on in that fashion until the number of turns for that game the end number of turns for that game has been reached. At any time, if a unit is destroyed and all killed, their dice, the dice that they have would immediately be returned to the opposing player, so that he can keep a record of how many units are down. Now that applies to if the unit had used their order dice and then were killed, it would be taken off the table. If the unit had been killed and didn't have the order dice, we would take the order dice from the bag and again give that to the opposing player, so he can keep a track of the number of units that he has killed. And that's basically the turn phase. Next video in the series, we will go over the orders that I mentioned on the order dice and go through each of the orders with a little bit more detail to show you exactly how they work. So hopefully that's a help to guys just starting off with Gates of Antares, and we'll do a few videos to follow up. If you've got comments or questions, please add those at the bottom of the video or find us on Facebook at War HQ. But until then, mahalo and take care.